All right. And a one and a two. Tech Twice Weekly, episode 26. Welcome to Tech Twice Weekly for November 13th, 2014. This is your source for the most important technology news stories and discussion every Monday and Thursday evening. I'm your host, Ben White, and thank you for joining us again for our lovely return to the internet airwaves. After my brief vacation in the amazing Florida sun, I am back to cover all the important tech news along with my great friend and maybe I should start calling him a co-host. And thankfully, the one and only Eric Fee. How you doing, man?
Howdy, partner.
Sounds like you're finally over that cold bug that took you out over Halloween.
Yeah, it lingered for a while. I don't know what was up with that, but apparently everyone's been getting similar symptoms with their colds.
I decided to go to Florida for a week and avoid the cold. Worked out pretty well for me.
I'm not jealous. Not at all. Not even a teeny bit.
Maybe next year you can come as my significant other.
Darn tootin'.
We'll doll you up a bit.
I need to be dulled.
All right. Well, with that awkward conversation out of the way, let's get to the top stories. Getting us back into the swing of things, this evening is news from CNET on updates to Google's TV dongle, the Chromecast. Last Tuesday, Google announced that Showtime Anytime was getting added to the device, as well as Stars Play. Additionally, Google announced new party games coming to the Chromecast as well. These included Wheel of Fortune, Just Dance Now, Connect 4 Quads, Hasbro's Monopoly Dash, and more. If those sound interesting to you, they can be played using an Android device connected to the Chromecast as a controller. Personally, I don't care so much about games on my Chromecast, but there they are. Continuing with more Google Android news, a new standalone Google Messenger app has been released to the Google Play Store. Android Police has a great write-up on it and point out that this new Messenger app is the stock SMS/MMS handler for Android 5.0 Lollipop, but it's on the Play Store, allowing it to be used on any Android device running 4.1 or higher. In other news, Google Android 5.0 is apparently out in the wild for Nexus devices. Um, Google has announced that they have released Android Lollipop for their of devices, but there's been hit or miss stories of the update actually being available. I know you said you haven't seen the update come out yet, right, Eric?
Yep, I'm just waiting for the OTA.
Yeah, I'm running Cyanogen, so I'll be waiting quite a while longer, I assume.
Yeah, the update's out there. It can be downloaded and installed with ADB, but I'm trying to just chill for the OTA and see what happens. I'm excited for Lollipop, but I'm not gonna jump the gun right away.
Yeah, and it's nice to do the update proper, so you're not having to wipe your device clean.
Well, apparently, from what I've read, it can be sideloaded without having to reinitialize your device.
Uh, I don't know. I think I'd take your option of waiting. I mean, if we get
Yes.
a month down the road and you're still waiting, maybe that's the time to try the side load route.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Some people are really gung ho about getting the newest version, but I know in a week or two I'll have it and it won't matter.
Yeah, and I can understand if you were a big active developer or something wanting to jump on this, but for those of us who just use their phones as their phones, I think it's okay to wait. Um, I did want to ask you about the new Messenger app because I know right now you're not big into the Hangouts integration. Do you think you would use a Messenger app that merged SMS and MMS into one app outside of the Google Voice app?
Um, I use Hello SMS, which supports MMS. I've been using it for a while, and I'm pretty happy with it. I saw the news of the Messenger app being put on the store separately, just like a lot of other Google apps, like the keyboard and so on, which is great for updates and all that. You don't have to wait till a whole new version of the OS to get fixes or updates to the individual pieces. But at the same time, I'm not. I'll probably try it when it gets installed with the Lollipop. But I'm really satisfied with Hello SMS until then.
Cool. Well, if you give it a try, let me know. I have a feeling you'll be running Lollipop before I will. All right. Well, PC World shares a follow-up article on the Anonbox Tor-based router that was previously attempting a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign before a number of flaws and untruths were uncovered by the internet at large, resulting in the campaign being suspended. It is now back and asking for crowdfunding support, but this time on Indiegogo. The team the Nonbox says that they're now working to get funding for their new fifth generation of the device. And according to the campaign's page, it has been updated with a truly unique circuit board, as well as running inside a newly designed and unique case, along with a hardened version of OpenWRT. If you're still interested in the project, we'll have a link to the campaign in our show notes. If you hadn't heard yet, last weekend at BlizzCon, Blizzard announced their newest title, Overwatch. It is a player versus player first person shooter and a first for the long video game giant. Many people's first reactions have been to compare it to Team Fortress 2, but based on reports from the BlizzCon show floor, it plays much differently from TF2, and comparisons really end at the art style. Additionally, Chris Metzen confirmed to Kotaku that Overwatch was developed from the ashes of the Titan project, Blizzard's previous next generation MMO that they reported as scrapped earlier this year. Chris did stress, however, that Overwatch is a very different game than Titan was originally intended to be. Did you get to pay much attention to BlizzCon this last weekend, Derek?
No, I did read the news on Overwatch, and a friend of mine was updating me from the convention. And seeing Overwatch, I looks pretty fun and very interesting. And seeing as how it's the first new IP from Blizzard in a long time, it's bound to be, at the very least, very interesting.
Have you jumped in to sign up for the beta?
No, I'm not. I don't game as much as I used to. Playing the beta is not that, it's like, eh.
You'll let somebody else work out the bugs?
Yeah, when it comes out, I'll get a chance to play it and play with, the rest of the regular folk who just want to play video games. So
There's been speculation that it's going to be free to play. I've heard rumors, so it'll be interesting to see if that ends up panning out.
that would be really kind of cool and very interesting. Uh, but at the same time, a single one-time purchase is not usually, not a big deal either way. And I,
It's proven to be pretty trustworthy as far as their games go and polish, at least.
well, they have their own, you know, legacy, but either way, it won't be ignored, and it'll have, a large player base, at least in the beginning, so we'll be able to see some interesting things about it. Um, a lot of rumor around Titan was that it was supposed to be a first-person shooter MMO, but I may be mistaken on that.
No, I think I've heard that as well. No, you're right. I have heard some wings about that in the past on the Titan rumors, which kind of makes sense. Perhaps the underpinnings, the engine that's behind all this first-person shooter action is what Titan did have developed, and they ended up moving that engine in the direction of this game,
Who knows?
right? Blizzard will never tell.
Yeah, it's probably not that interesting of a story.
Well, I'm sure there's some developers out there who would say otherwise. To 99% of the population, I'm sure you're exactly right. Also, for our listeners out there, in case you were unaware, we, the human race, have successfully landed on the Rosetta Comet on Wednesday. The robotic lander Philae, I think, if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, had a small issue with its landing harpoons failing to fire properly, but they still managed to successfully land on the comet after a couple of bounces on its surface. Scientists are still working on verifying the lander's exact location and preparing for its various missions. Right now, priority one is getting the lander's solar panels active, as at the moment they believe it's on the edge of a crater, which could cause for some shade, greatly reducing the amount of power and battery life the lander has available. IGN is reporting that Microsoft has submitted a trademark claim for Battletoads into the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. The trademark filing specifies the patent as game software, but no further details are mentioned. That's about it for the story. But personally, there's a lot of speculation out there, and I believe that this simply means Microsoft may be picking up the title and patent and trademark rights to release this game on the Xbox One, but time will tell. Now, this is a story you threw in the rundown, Eric. More Microsoft news about the .NET Server Stack going open source and also being ported to Linux and OS X. Uh, what's happening there?
Microsoft has previously talked about taking the .NET framework open source, which would mean people can fork it and make changes, and of course make it run on other platforms. And now they're kind of following through with that previous illusion. Looks like next year Microsoft will be releasing the .NET framework, the .NET, the ASP.NET Server Stack, the .NET framework, the Common Language Runtime, and Base Class Library that support running on Linux and Mac, which is totally awesome. Previously, the way you could run code in .NET on those platforms is either using Mono, which is a open source variant that runs .NET code, or using Silverlight, which had a slimmed down version of the Common Language Runtime. But having access to the framework, Common Language Runtime, Base Class Libraries, and ASP.NET Server Stack will mean that developers can write programs in the .NET language, such as C#.NET or anything else that's supported by the Common Language Runtime, and deploy them to Linux and Mac. The cool thing about the .NET Server Stack is that a few years ago, Microsoft changed the way their ASP.NET server works, and now it's all, and back then they made it all written in .NET. So any program could host an ASP.NET website, and what that means for us is that we'll see developers working in ASP.NET and deploying it to machines running other operating systems and probably other web servers. The other big news is that Visual Studio 2015 will support iOS and Android as alongside Windows. So we'll see developer tools coming to a lot of other platforms as well.
Nice. That sounds pretty awesome, actually, and definitely sounds like something that would never happen in a Steve Ballmer.
Well, you never know. They talked about it when Steve was still CEO, but Microsoft uh, Dev division is, kind of, it's also somewhat of its own entity in some ways. So it's, you never know. But it looks like they're going to come through with their previous talks and bring tools to the rest of us. I had previously kind of given up on writing C#.net simply because it lacks any portability to other platforms, and I have switched to Python for most of my cross-platform work. But it looks like I'll be able to reattack that change and see if it still needs to be in effect next year or the year after when these tools become available on other platforms.
So they basically made the announcement now, but it's not going to truly be open sourced and available for another year or two. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if they stated a date, but what they did say is that they will be next year sometime uh, taking the source of these tools and putting them on GitHub.
Awesome. So people can truly fork it. It's not just download from the Microsoft core. It can actually be a tracked fork.
Yep, it'd be very cool.
That's awesome. Maybe it's time for me to start dabbling in .NET and learn what most of what you just said even means.
To anyone who's never used C#.net or ASP.NET, it's really kind of cool technology. And if you are working in that Microsoft sphere and you're using Visual Studio.NET, you're getting a lot of really cool tools and a lot of really cool code. I miss working in C#.NET. It's really awesome.
Well, it looks like beyond just the .NET code base going open source, or is the language, is that the right term, going open source?
Yeah.
It looks like the development studio, Visual Studio Community 2013, got released Wednesday for free as well, which apparently is a kind of a light version of the full Visual Studio package. So awesome. That's really good news. All right. Well, moving on from that, Gizmodo passed along word that the consumerist and rooters, or from the consumerist and rooters, I should say, that Walmart will begin to price match online retailers in about 5,000 of its stores. Traditionally, brick and mortar retailers have only price matched other brick and mortar businesses, but with this change, Walmart will now allow price matching online retailers such as Amazon. This puts Walmart in direct competition to Amazon's same day delivery in many markets. I'm guessing you probably don't shop a lot at Walmart, Eric. I know I don't make a habit of it, but it might cross my mind now and again for some smaller items that I really need right now if I can match it to a cheap Amazon price. What do you think?
It'd be nice to, get an Amazon price for a TV, go down and pick it up.
Right, not have to worry about it being shipped.
Typically, I only buy motor oil at Walmart because it's dirt cheap. That's pretty much it. I don't
Yeah,
like to go to Walmart for anything else.
yeah. I'm wondering as this rolls out if it's gonna get discovered that there are exceptions, like department exceptions or specific brand exceptions.
Yeah, who knows? And since this is only happening in select areas, it may be places where Amazon is also forced to pay the same kind of taxes. Because I know in Oregon there aren't any, there's no sales tax, and it's also not, and of course it's not enforced online. So um, there are also no other Amazon taxes that I know of. Online retailers can do business here without paying anything extra above, shipping and whatever they do.
Right,
So
right. Good point.
yeah, in areas where Amazon has to pay tax might be might be easier to compete with by Walmart.
Yeah, and Walmart also has itself set up in markets where there may not be the most internet penetration, which allows them to take advantage of marketing that they're matching internet prices to an audience that isn't inclined to really look at them.
Yeah, who knows? That's kind of cool, I guess, but I'm not a big Walmart fan.
Yeah, I like the idea. There might be a thing or two I come across that I end up zipping down to Walmart for, but we'll see how it plays out.
There aren't that many Walmarts where we live either.
Right. Yeah. I think they're all up on 82nd, unless you get out of Portland.
Yeah, I've only ever been to one Walmart in my entire life, and it's the one on 82nd and Holgate.
Be proud. Be proud.
That's where I get my motor oil. So I can get it for half the price as it is in most other stores. And that's since I use a lot of motor oil, it ends up saving me a lot of money.
Hey, at the end of the day, oil's oil, right? I mean, it's all what's labeled on the bottle.
Well, I buy the same motor oil I buy other places. It's just cheaper at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, security blog HackRead is sharing the news that Microsoft has released a security patch last Tuesday that hidden in the Windows operating system code all the way back to Windows 95. This exploit allowed an attacker to take control of an affected computer remotely when the user visited a malicious website. The vulnerability was discovered by IBM's research team back in May of this year and reported to Microsoft's security team, which then remained quiet about it until they were able to develop and release this patch. So, if you haven't run Windows Update recently, now would be a really good time to fire it up and make sure you've got the latest security fixes downloaded. And our last story of the night, following up on the past story covering installing Windows 95 on an Android Wear watch, the Telegraph is reporting on a Chinese hacker who managed to get Windows 98 running on an iPhone 6. According to the developer, he pulled off the stunt using the iDOS emulator from the Apple App Store, which is intended for playing classic DOS-based games on iOS devices. And while it's very interesting to see that this is possible to pull off, I'd recommend avoiding it for now, as the developer also reports many error messages and UI related issues. And really, what would you expect? All right. Well, that takes care of our headline for this evening. And moving into our tech toys you wish you could buy, really only got one tonight, but it's a very interesting take on a 3D printer. Um, TechCrunch is covering the Flux 3D printer, which I guess it's one of the first multi-function 3D printers, you could say, as it's designed to be a scanner, a laser engraver, and a 3D printer. And this is all possible due to a modular design that the device implements. Right now, the printer is on Kickstarter. It's currently got 37 days to go with 883 backers and has blown past its original $100,000 goal. Right now, they're sitting at $536,360. So the campaign is well overfunded, so it's definitely going to be going through. And if you want in on one of these, you can actually get in. Let's see where the price points are here. All of the early birds are gone at this point, but you can get a classic version of the Flux kit with a roll of 500 gram. I'm not sure if they're measuring the material in. With a roll of material, PLA material, for a mere $599. We want the deluxe version with 2 rolls material and the laser engraving module, which they also include laser safety glasses. You're looking at $679. And to get in on the full device with the laser engraver, the scanner, the 3D printer, all the bells and whistles in either the first batch, which comes in at $899, or a full metal version, which comes in at a cool $2,000. There's still 8 out of 10 of those remaining. And well, personally, this whole thing is well outside of my price range. I love it. I really love the design. It's set up using magnets and ball joints. So it's really smooth, fluid movement, allows easy swapping in and out of parts, and potentially could support many more modules as well. I know we've talked a lot about 3D printers and things in the past here, but taking a look at this, what do you think, Eric? I mean, I imagine it's not something you're really in the market to pull the trigger on, but if money was no object, would you have one of these?
I think it's pretty sweet. The only downside is it's a little small.
That's true. It is rather small. The bed. It doesn't say an exact measurement on the bed here, but oh, here we go. Print size, 6.7 inches deep by 7 inches in height. So very small bed, but for what it is, for its the first generation of this modular device, I'm impressed.
Very cool.
I especially like the modular nature because the ability, once you have the framework down, the ability to change the heads to any number of different things really becomes pretty minimal. Developing heads for this appears to be a rather simple process, all things considered. Because they toy with the idea that you could make a chocolate extruder or a pastry extruder, a dual extruder. I mean, the options are really limitless, and they just plug into the arms that support the vertical and the X and Y and Z axis movement.
Well, engraver, scanner, and printer are you're kind of hitting the trifecta. The only thing that you could need more than that is a cutter, I think.
Right.
So, like, you can destroy, you can create, and you can observe. Not much more else to do other than create, modify, or observe other things.
Right. Any changes beyond that are just simply in the material being used.
So that's pretty cool, man.
I kind of like the idea of having a chocolate extruder, but I might just put my face under it.
Yeah, they've had that for a long time, but it comes in the form of a Hershey's bottle. You even get it pre-chilled. I put it in the refrigerator.
Touche, good sir, touche.
Haven't you ever walked in the kitchen when you were a kid, seeing your parents have like one of those Hershey's tin cans of syrup that's already been opened with the plastic thing on top? You're like, I would have some of this.
Well, yeah, that's what, you take a shot of the syrup, you take a shot off the milk carton, and you shake your head around to mix it up.
Kids are weird, man. That or you go in, you get like a couple slices of cheese and like a couple pieces of like sandwich meat and just like put them together and put them in your mouth like a breadless sandwich. Ah,
Yes, that is how I make sandwiches.
yes, totally. That's what I did as a kid. Yes, as a child.
Right. It's not because I'm out of bread and I'm too lazy to go to the store. That has nothing to do with it.
It's not my fault that bread goes stale rather quickly and that they only sell like big old loaves you can never finish in the first place. And so you look on your way to the store, I got bread, come home, you're like, I'm going to make a sandwich with the other stuff that's not bread that I bought. Oh, the bread's bad. Well, damn.
I look at it, it's like when you go pour a bowl of cereal and find out that you're out of milk or the milk is spoiled. It's the same situation.
Yep, then you got a dry cereal bowl. Uh, sorry, I've been having that bread problem lately because I've been making sandwiches here and there, so I'll buy a loaf, and then like half of it will be bad, and it's like, dang it, why can't I buy half loaves?
You should just freeze half the loaf.
You know, I was actually looking the other day, and I couldn't find any half dozen eggs at the store. I was like, I don't want a full dozen. I'm a single human being. I cannot eat a full dozen of eggs before they go bad. Can I just get a half dozen? No, I cannot. I am forced to eat eggs days on end because they don't come in half dozens anymore.
You are forced to be relatively healthy and eat more eggs.
Eggs have a lot of cholesterol, man. You can't. Eating too much of them is not good.
It's good cholesterol this week. Your eggs are on the good list.
Well, I don't want to eat too much cholesterol. Eggs are not the thing you want to eat a huge
Yes,
amount of.
they are. Yes, actually they are. Eggs are really healthy for you. It's good in HDL, which is the healthy cholesterol. Eggs are very, very good for you, unless you fry them and make them delicious in butter and bacon fat, and then they're not quite so good. But they're really good tasting. Because for the most part, all the eggs I make are made in bacon fat, if I have any say in the matter.
Nice.
I like my farm animals together, okay?
So I've been eating hard-boiled eggs. I had hard-boiled eggs for lunch yesterday, and I don't want to eat eggs for a while.
That's hard-boiled eggs are so responsible.
Well, I was making egg salad sandwiches, but then the bread went bad.
I I feel your pain because I have been there. And one of two things will happen. Either your bread will go bad or your eggs will go bad. You can't win. One or the other of that sandwich is going to spoil.
Yeah, let's see here.
Are you looking up the health of eggs?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to comment on it now. I just will say that I can have a lot of cholesterol, and I gotta watch my diet. Even though it is HDL, I still can't eat a lot of them because, yeah,
We all probably should. Whether or not health issues aside, we all should probably eat better.
yeah. Well, it's just like, well, I gotta eat this dozen eggs, or I'm wasting a bunch of them, and I don't like to waste it. But at the same time, I guess I should waste it rather than eat unhealthily.
Freeze eggs. It sounds terrible to me, but I've heard reports of freezing and thawing eggs successfully without them being awful. But I've always been afraid to try it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, my grandma froze milk and told me it was okay, and it wasn't. So
Well, I just like how we got to this conversation from, a 3D printer. Yeah.
we're
Damn it.
close.
Why can't I get half loaves and half dozens? Damn it.
The world is not made for a single man.
It's not. I just need to break down and buy some bastard chow.
The world is not made for a single man trying to eat reasonably.
That's my first problem right there.
Eat fatter.
I need to eat worse and then not be single, and then all my problems will be solved, right?
Well, no, you can still be single. That's cool. You just have to eat fatter.
Well, that'll keep me single, that's for sure.
Well, on that note, we should move on to our discussion topic for the night. This is an interesting one I came across, and I'm actually really looking forward to your opinion on it. Um, the story comes from The Verge, and it is about Harvard secretly installing cameras in lecture halls to monitor student attendance. What's happened is um, Harvard University installed cameras in several of their lecture halls with the intent of keeping tabs on student attendance. The program, however, wasn't made aware to students or professors. So they were basically just secretly monitoring classrooms without anyone's knowledge, without anyone's permission. And arguably, in a classroom, you'd have a hard time arguing that you have an expectation of privacy, but at the same time, I think you'd have a pretty strong argument that you don't expect to be videotaped without your knowledge as well. Um, so the right now there's a lot of privacy concerns going around, a lot of questions, especially because the university officials didn't inform anybody that they were being monitored. And so, what do you think about this? The idea of just silent monitoring classrooms on the concept of keeping track of attendance, but realistically, those images and that data could be used for anything.
I don't know. They videotape me naked when I go to the get on an airplane.
Yeah, sort of, but that's a little different, though. I mean, even assuming you buy in to the safety that those scans are intended to provide, that's a different discussion for a different day. Um, they are, in principle, scanning you for the safety of your fellow passengers in the airplane. So you, in for the privilege of the flight of the
Why is flying a privilege?
what's that?
So that's another thing. Why is flying a privilege? Like,
Like
who
I
said that flying is a privilege?
like I said, different discussion, different day.
It's like
But
saying driving is a privilege. Like, the world's too big not to drive. So don't give me this crap about how driving is a privilege. Well, okay, yeah, maybe in Portland, Oregon, where you can get on the bus if you want to take 10 times longer to get anywhere because my time is worthless. Sorry, I'm just.
driving is a privilege because you are agreeing to drive in accordance with the laws of the road. Flying is a pseudo privilege, which is a whole different discussion and a whole lot of crap. But
I don't think either are privileges. I think they are more like rights than privileges, but rights is also not the right word to use because it's loaded.
right. Yeah. There needs to be something in between. But at any rate, I mean, what are your thoughts on the idea of surveillance without your knowledge?
I'm surveyed about my knowledge all the time.
So you don't have any problem with this, with the university?
Well, I didn't say that. You're baiting me. I don't think what they did was right. I think that people should be informed, especially when they pay big money to go to college. First of all, I think they should be informed at the very least. I think that the employees should definitely be informed. Like, above all else, the employees, like the teachers, should know what is going on. The students should be informed from a moral point of view, and that's all there is to it. They should have just been told, look, we're installing machines to track users in the form of a camera, so the data is anonymous, which of course is bullshit. But what are you gonna do? I don't think that this is wrong. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to capture that data. I think it's just wrong not to tell people about it.
Right, exactly, and that's where I sit too. The university has every right to decide that this is what they want to do. They own the classroom, they offer the class, but it's the lack of transparency of making people aware that they're walking into somewhere that is being monitored. And the university's defense here is that this is a research project and they want it to be unbiased and all these things. But the question that's not asked in this article that immediately comes to my mind is, how little do you trust your instructors to not properly be able to take attendance on their own if they care? Since when did attendance in a university class mean that much?
And not only that, but also there are other ways to track attendance. And since people pay to be there, and for Harvard pay a huge amount to be there, especially if they're out of state, isn't it someone's? Well, I was going to get into a diatribe about how the students should be able to make their own decisions, but I don't necessarily understand. I don't necessarily think that from this article, I didn't get the sense they're trying to make it about everyone should be attending. I think they're just trying to get reliable statistics about it. And
Sure.
that is, of course, so because someone said, I want to know how many people are actually here. And someone said, well, what can we do about it? Well, we can track people, and then we'll install cameras, and my boss wants to do this, and my boss's boss wants to do that. My boss's boss's boss wants to do this. One department over, so I was told to buy cameras and install them and hook them up, and then this other guys, well, I was told to install this software and then run this program and blah, blah, blah. And that's all fine and good, and if the goals on this were pure, then that's even better, but still, at the very least, the employees should have been told.
Yeah, because it seems from this article that only people above the school knew about the project, as the project was approved by a federally mandated review board before being implemented. But I would think, especially if your goal is to not influence the results, your instructors should know. Because if somebody were to raise the question, notice the cameras, is it better for the instructor to be able to privately tell them, yes, this is what's going on? Or is it better for the instructor to go, oh God, there's a camera in my classroom that no one knows about in this age where people are worried about perverts all the time and privacy is on high alert? I mean, it just seems like a terrible way to approach the goal.
Yeah, and also I'm not sure about the surveillance laws in Massachusetts, but I think that Massachusetts is a two-party state.
Well, and that's, I think, can come down to the argument of whether or not you have an expectation of privacy in a public classroom.
Well, that's true, but privacy doesn't. Well, that's true, but if you have a two-party state, it doesn't matter, because both parties involved need to be aware in all circumstances, regardless if it's in public or not. It may be so set up so much that trying to put surveillance on one person is not okay, but trying to put surveillance on a mass populace is okay, like CCTV.
Right, right.
And that may be all and well, but still, people should have been told. Like, no matter what is said here, we're both going to come away from this topic saying, well, they still should have been told, regardless of law, regardless of everything else, regardless of review boards. They should have just been told, hey, we're installing a system that uses cameras to monitor population, period.
And not to just detract from the story, I think we both have ended up at the same page, but I just got notified of breaking news that Reddit's CEO, Ishan Wong, has resigned in a surprise leadership change. He has announced today that his longtime position, longtime CEO Ishan Wong has stepped down as leader of the company. He joined back in 2012 when Reddit was in need of some leadership. But right now, he has stepped down. Interesting. That seems like Reddit is losing upper management quite a lot lately. So, hmm. I don't really have a lot more input on that article, but it just came across my news feed right now as breaking news. So I
Interesting.
guess Reddit is having some top tier, top level management shakeups.
Cool.
Well, that is all of our discussion and stories for tonight. Um, I know I wanted to kind of fall back on is you mentioned a couple of shows ago that you were picking up a Chromebook and you finally actually got that delivered and have had a chance to play with it some. What do you think?
I've had the Chromebook for about a week, and I've been using it off and on. I've been using it at work, and I like it. I like it a lot. I went into the I went into the deal knowing what it is. I did a lot of research beforehand, and I did a bunch of research when I was buying one to make sure I was getting one that I would be satisfied with. And I ended up with the HP 14. So it has an Intel processor, 14-inch screen, has 3G, 32 gigabyte SSD for storage, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. And I'm really happy with it. The battery life is excellent. I've been using it at work, and it lasts all day without a charge. And just the other day, I listened to music on it all day without charging it.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the battery life. And in fact, it's the battery life really is better than what they say. Like it's really good. But of course, buyer beware. Chromebooks are effectively computers built to run Google Chrome, and that's it. They have some like extensions built in for managing files and the camera, but other than that, it really is Google Chrome, the browser. And if you're looking for anything more, it's not going to satisfy you, and you're not going to be able to install other programs without some major hacking.
Hmm.
And I would, of course, just suggest to buy a different laptop if that's what you're looking for. But if you're all you're looking for is a small communications device, a glorified tablet, it's like a tablet in the shape of a laptop, effectively. Um, so anything you can do online on Google Chrome on your desktop, you can do on the Chromebook. And you can install the Hangouts plugin, and uh, you can do video calls and all that kind of stuff, and it works great for that. And if you're looking for a little laptop with a lot of battery life and that surfs the web very well, then you should look into one. Um, I can't really speak for the Chromebooks with less than 4 gigs of RAM. That was something I was concerned about. And I also was concerned on if there would be a difference in performance or how it worked if I used one that had an ARM processor instead of an Intel processor. Luckily, I purchased one with an Intel processor, so I was readily available for how it works and what it does with a sufficient amount of memory. Uh, but I mean, I'd love to have someone come on and talk to me about their Chromebook and how they have experienced and what their time is. I've only had it for a week, so most of these impressions are fairly close to my first. Uh, but if you're looking for something like a tablet that is better for surfing the web and having text input, then you should go try a Chromebook. Maybe it'll suit your needs. I wrote my last blog article on it, and it has a full keyboard. You know, uh, the touchpad does have some gestures in it for like switching tabs and scrolling and going back and forth and stuff, and those work pretty well. Overall, I'm really very impressed.
That's awesome. I've been on the fence about a Chromebook for a long time now. My regular laptop's getting a little long in the tooth, but I don't feel like the replacement for it necessarily needs to be a full laptop because almost everything I'm doing on it now is in the cloud. especially with using Google Docs and Google Drive for everything. I don't need the physical storage or physical horsepower that I was using a lot of previously.
Yeah, I also have a MacBook Pro, which is okay, but my biggest gripe about it is it's a bit big and a bit heavy in comparison to the Chromebook or a tablet or something. And the battery life on it is poor. It's an optioned out i7 with like discrete graphics and all that. And it does pretty well for horsepower. It can really pump out some decent numbers for being a few years old now. But and I like it well enough. But as far as like something just to whip out and do a little browsing or something, or to have sitting next to you with Facebook open when you're at work, uh, the Chromebook does excellently, and I'm really happy with it. And uh, I ended up buying a refurbished model on Woot.com. I had saved up money and I was waiting for it to show up on Woot, and so when it did, I went and purchased it. Um, uh, the retail price for the model I have is over $350, but I ended up buying the refurbished model, which is works perfectly for $230. And at $230, it's a pretty good price. It's hard to get machines with those specs at that price, and it's also difficult to get a good tablet at that price, um, unless it's old and used but still in good condition. Uh, so I mean, like bang for the buck, I would say very high, as long as you are aware of the limitations going in.
Sure, and I think that's a big important part is recognizing what you're actually buying.
You're right. If it's not going to solve your needs, then no matter how cheap it is, it's not going to be good because you're going to end up not being able to accomplish what you want with it. It's not the right tool for the job. But if you recognize its purpose and limitations, then it can be perfect for you.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned your blog. Is there somewhere people can go to check that out?
I like to keep it on the down low.
All right, that's cool. Totally respect that. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for coming back to us again after a brief hiatus while I had to disappear to Florida. I'm changing jobs, so I was spending some time down there with the new company I'm transitioning to, learning what they're doing, getting training, and also having a great time in Florida, enjoying some 80-degree weather while Portland was covered in rain. So, but that being said, glad to have the listeners back. Glad to be back doing the show. And please check us out, techtwiceweekly.com. You can subscribe to the show there. We have the RSS feeds, links to iTunes, Stitcher Radio. We're also on Blueberry and a couple other podcast directories out there. But if we're not in yours, let us know. You can reach us, feedback at techtwiceweekly.com or on Twitter at techtwiceweekly. That's all we've got for a show tonight. So for Eric Fee, I'm Ben White. Have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you on Monday. Maybe. Come on, Winamp, you can do it. There we go.